as we go into another case that you were also very in tune with, someone just told me we're approaching 2 years, I believe 2 years, on Tory's case. Like, he's been incarcerated. So the end of his case, he's been locked up, I believe, December 2022.
He's still got that appeal pending with the Quan affidavit.
But he's already serving his time, technically, which, we just see some news pop up about his wife is getting divorced from him. I'm wondering what the latest is with Tory. I think there's a lot of motion going on with like his attorneys. He switched out attorneys. He got appeal attorneys, and these other attorneys are doing this. I'm wondering what's going on with that. And I'm wondering if it's even possible that he will, no matter how this ends, unless somehow an appellate court turns this over, will Tory Lanez be a citizen or allowed to stay in the United States? Because I recently spoke to his people. This whole time I'm thinking, Tory really ain't like an immigrant, right? Like, he's been in the United States, living in LA, living in Miami for years. Of course, he like got his citizenship. They're like, no, he's an immigrant. I'm like, what? What do you think about that case? You followed it closely. You were there in court for many days.
And I said this before. When you watch that case, go back, watch all my videos, watch anybody's videos. And right up until the moment that the eyewitness testified on redirect, right? We had Meg testify, we had Kelsey testify, we had all these witnesses testify. We even had this eyewitness testify. I was in my bedroom window. I could see these people engaged in a fight. They were all in a big commotion. The gun went off. I thought the girl was closest to it. Tory was good. He had a case that he could win. He had a case where at least if you were a millionaire defendant, you would say, nah, I'm not taking that plea. I'm good. Let's keep letting it ride. We're on track here. And then on redirect, that eyewitness comes out and he says, it was the little guy and he was doing this. And when that happened, I wanted to make the video. I didn't understand how to manage it, but I wanted to make the video that was like, yo, red flag. That's a fucking problem when he said that. You need to do something about that. What do? You put Quan on the stand. You put Tory on the stand.
But didn't Quan show up like so late?
Doesn't matter. You have one job, which is to win. When that eyewitness on redirect, the state's last witness, that was it. The state was done. The state said, we rest. After that man said the little man was going like this. You've lost. It's over.
Why didn't... so one of the things I was thinking about that case, and I'm watching how Brian Steele is fighting. And I spoke to, salute to my man Bradford Cohen out of Florida. He spoke even about the YNW Melly case, and that ended in a mistrial. He said, hey, he thinks that Melly's new team might actually get him off just because they're doing the right things. He said most of that trial is going to be fought before it's had.
Yeah.
You got to make sure certain shit do not get in that courtroom. And they're doing it now, but they didn't do it before. So when I think about the Tory case, I'm like, I remember just thinking, I'm like, yo, Kelsey gets up there and gives a testimony. How the fuck do y'all let the prosecutor say, all right, fuck her testimony, play this tape that we did when she wasn't sworn in front of a judge and in the court. Just play this tape of what she told us in our interrogation room. And it was like 80 minutes. How does that get played?
I think the judge let that tape play because the judge believed that there had been some level of witness tampering with Kelsey, and he saw Kelsey's testimony. He said, that shit just all made no sense, so you know what? I'm going to let them play the tape because I think the defense is dirty. I think that's why the judge let it play. But when that...
Isn't that the same as what's happening right now in the YSL case, where it's like, I think Judge Glanville is thinking, hey, you've been cooperating. You've been down to snitch this whole time. You've been down to snitch this whole time. Now you're acting like you don't want to snitch. You're really trying to save this guy. So I'm going to not legally follow the rules to exempt you from testifying. I'm just going to stand on the principle that if you can't get prosecuted, you're going to have to testify because you're getting tampered with.
I think what you're saying is that the judge is feeling like the defense is in the wrong.
Yes.
That they're fucking with this guy, so I'm going to do whatever I can to protect this
Yes.
guy. And I think the judge in the Tory case felt the exact same way, that the defense was fucking with Kelsey, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure the prosecution gets Kelsey's story out there. With Tory, when that witness on redirect did this and the prosecution said, we rest, and you're the defense, the ball is in your hand. You cannot punt. You cannot kneel. You got to take that ball to the house.
You're down by 7, and
you down by 6. You down by 7. You need a 2-point conversion.
Oh, okay.
All right, and what they Quan came in, right? Nobody has seen Quan in years. They're like, Quan, where the fuck is Quan? He's the key witness. Quan is here.
Yeah.
He's in the hallway. Defense is like, yeah, we're gonna call Quan. The judge is like, I'll let you call Quan in 4 days. So for 4 days, Quan is going to get what? Hammered by the prosecution, right?
Yeah.
That was said in the YSL trial. And so the defense has to make a call. Hey, what are we going to do? We're going to wait 4 days, let the prosecution take...
By the way, Quan's the driver, if no one notices. Remember, there's 4 people party to this. There's actually 4 people. 3 are very intoxicated. Tory drunk, Kelsey drunk, Meg drunk. The only sober person is the driver, and the person who's sober never testifies.
So Quan comes in, he's on the stand. The defense had a critical decision to make. Do we wait the time, let the prosecution take a run at Quan, or do we put him on or not and say, well, we don't need Quan's testimony? If you ask me, and I got a little scared to make the video at that moment in time because I didn't want to influence people's decision making. The answer was very easy. You have to put Quan on the stand because you're in a really bad spot.
Let me ask you a question, because I've heard Vlad say this a million times now. Everybody who watches Vlad TV interviews, he keeps saying this same thing. I talked to Tony Yayo. Yayo says, if you got to take the stand or like, you don't go to trial if blah, 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 if whatever. If Quan isn't there and that happens, if you're the defense attorney, do you look at Tory and say, Tory, I know this was not in the cards, but we need you to go up there and try to hit a fucking home run. We're sending the pitcher up there.
You're facing a potential 10-year sentence. You're facing potential deportation. The eyewitness just said it was the little man, and you have cards to play. You play the cards. You got to play the cards. You put Quan up, you put Tory up, and they tell it.
That's interesting. Because usually the saying is you never take the stand.
I mean, no. Listen, in that moment, when the eyewitness said what he said and the prosecution rested, it was incumbent on the defense to recognize that they needed to shore up their case. And the only way they could do that was Quan testifying, Tory testifying. On both, they said no. And if I was the lawyer... Today, with the benefit of hindsight, I would have made the video.
The benefit of hindsight is important.
The benefit of hindsight, I would have made the video. I knew in that moment, I didn't need hindsight in that moment. If I was the lawyer in that moment, I would tell you. As the content creator,
you were in that court.
I was in a room.
Okay, what's the feeling inside the room? Because I could imagine, I heard about just how people reacted to Meg testifying and Kelsey kind of stuttering and not really knowing what she remembered. And I've heard like the feeling of, I could imagine how people would just on a gallery looking at someone, how they would feel when you hear one of the last witnesses say, it was a short guy with the gun waving it around. Do you feel like the breath of the air was kind of sucked out the room? Like, Tory, this ain't look good.
Yeah, it was sucked out of the room. And I'll take you through all the days. The first day or first day and a half, 2 days, Meg testified. This man was guilty as fuck at the end of Meg's testimony. Meg looked phenomenal, great witness. Like, people are just stuck to her.
I'm glad you say that now because I'm mad at you now. Because I was not in the courtroom and we looked to you guys as eyes and ears. And when I listened to you, I heard a lot of hopefulness in terms of Tory's side. And that's why when the verdict came down, I was just like, how could I have heard that it was going this way? Then now I'm hearing it this way.
There was enough opened up on the Meg testimony that if other people came and said stuff, you would not find it. Meg didn't put him away, but based on just what Meg said and nobody else, you would vote guilty.
Okay.
Kelsey came in, said stuff.
So she did what she had to do. Good.
She did what she did. But if it was just her, you would say guilty.
Okay.
Kelsey came in, and it kind of raised some questions. If you, at the end of the Kelsey testimony, you're downright confused. You have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Can I ask you one question about that? I still don't know why Tory's defense team never brought up the allegations, or I think Sean Kelly and maybe another witness maybe confirmed this, that Meg and Kelsey were fighting. And if you're trying to, if I'm the defense team, I'm going to paint a picture of, hey, if a gun did, my client never fired a gun, but if a gun did go off, let's think about the incidents that happened before. Tory was not just beating on one of these women before the gun went off. He didn't just grab a gun and run to them. There was a fight between two women. And if we kind of just be reasonable, it doesn't make any sense that two women are fighting and a guy jumps in and say, let me shoot one of you, right? I would be playing off that theory. So really going off, hey, they were both drunk. Women were fighting. There was a gun. Hey, as a defense attorney, you got to talk about your client. Don't you just talk about what's going on? The women are fighting and a gun goes off. It doesn't make sense that the guy runs and gets the gun to shoot a woman. Why do they never really Kelsey doesn't acknowledge, at least from what I've seen, she doesn't acknowledge that she was fighting with Meg. No, Meg never says, I was fighting her, I was beating her up, or she was beating me up.
And that's why you had hope for Tory, because Meg does not acknowledge the fight. Kelsey does not acknowledge the fight. Robert Kelly says that I was in my bedroom window. They were right there. It was the two women fighting. So Kelly says that on the cross-examination of the defense, and all of a sudden, heaven's gates have opened up. It's there. It's right there for Tory to walk through. But on redirect, the prosecution gets him to then say that after he said that it was the two women fighting, the guy came to break it up, the gun went off, and it was the woman who was closest to the muzzle flash. He said that. It was beautiful for Tory.
Let me ask you a question. Was this all in the same day, or did they break?
They broke after the cross. They come back on redirect, and the prosecutor gets him to say the piece about Tory waving in the arms. But at that moment, it was easy. Quan,
it's looking good.
It wasn't looking good. At that moment, you're fucked. But if you're playing out the cards, right, as lawyers, we have to we don't care about what happened.
It's enough reasonable doubt where, did Tory really do it?
What makes a good lawyer act is that you're in the middle of the fucking ocean.
What does that mean?
You're in the middle of the ocean, bro. You don't see nothing but water. And there's waves and God knows what in that water. But you know where the fucking shore is. And you know what to do to get to that shore. And even if I don't see it, even if there's stuff fucking me up, I know how to get to the shore. And so if you're a good lawyer, you gotta have that sense of how to get there. And that if you're not gonna make it, to just fucking smoke them all, right? That if I feel like I'm not gonna make it, whatever I got on me, I'm gonna let it burn because I'm not gonna make it. It's the bottom of the ocean if I don't make it. So when Kelly did that, a good lawyer should have seen that we're gonna drown. All right. And
when he saw the redirect.
On the redirect, when he did that, you've got to see that I'm drowning right now. And so what do I have left to not drown? Because if I don't use whatever I have left, it's going to be at the bottom of the ocean with me. And what he had left was two potential testimonies. The testimony of Quan.
Did Quan already walk in?
Quan was there. Quan was their one and only witness.
Why did he show up?
He showed up because... who cares why he showed up? He's there. He's your witness. He's your ace up your sleeve.
No, it's confusing though.
And showed up for Tory.
No, if I'm just think about it as a juror. If I know there's four people that we're talking about in this whole case, the prosecutor has told us, hey, the fourth person we can't find. We've tried to subpoena. We don't know where he's at. People have been talking about he's not in the country, this and third. We don't know where he's at, but we have interrogation footage from the guy and the other people here, and we believe it's Tory that did it. And all of them are going to take the stand except Tory because he's the defendant. And then this guy where you're like, well, I would love to hear from this guy. He doesn't. He shows up at the last day. If I'm a juror, I would feel like, oh, he was avoiding this.
The jury would not know any of that. The jury would just have seen Quan. The jury would have just seen Quan, but the defense made a strategic decision that they did not want the continuance. The state said, we haven't seen Quan. We've been looking for him. He just showed up this morning.
Oh, that's why he showed. Oh no, I thought he just showed up to watch. My bad. They showed up and they tried to bring him in.
That's right. He showed up to testify.
Yeah,
and the prosecution said, hey, we need a continuance because we've never met this guy. We have no idea what he's going to say. And that was the critical juncture in that case for the defense to say, all right, we'll give you the 4 days. And maybe they know stuff that we are not privy to and that you couldn't give them the 4 days. It was too risky. Fine. But you need something. So you put Tory up there because sitting in that courtroom in that moment after the Kelly redirect, it should have been clear that you're not going to make it to the shore.
What's the body language of everybody in there? I know Meg wasn't there after her testimony, but apparently there was some Rock Nation people. There were a lot of heavily interested parties. What is the atmosphere? How tense is it? How is Tory looking? How is his attorneys looking? By the way, you know, as much as information I got, I was one of the people saying, hey, the prosecutors are amateurs. Like it looks like, you know, Kathy Ta and I forgot what the other guy name was. They don't know what's going on, and they won the case. How was their demeanor? What was the demeanor of everyone? I'm guessing.
Well, between the courtroom audience, I think the demeanor was very clearly interested parties who are obviously just for their side. So the Rock Nation people were there, and they were there for Meg, and Tory's peeps were there, and they were there for Tory. And then there was a bunch of reporters and members of the public. And all those people kind of broke into basically two factions, I believe, which is that, you know, in society today, we have people who ascribe to the concept of you believe women. If there's a woman who's the victim and she's alleging a man of doing something, that man did it. And I think a lot of the people in the audience were of that camp. And then there was another camp who's like, you know, nah, people don't do crimes. Right? It's like, nah, it's not. What are you talking about?
Or this don't make sense type shit.
Nah, not my guy. My guy never do that. and me, I'm just in there from the perspective of, you know, how are these lawyers going to present these facts to the jury, and are they going to do it in a way that's going to work? And to me, I saw that the prosecution was doing it in a way that was not working, and then they got it to work, and then it was on the defense. The ball was in the defense's court. They punted that shit. They said,
wow. Let me ask you a few questions about that. And I also want to get to the Youngboy case. Okay.
Free YB.
So with that, the Tory thing, did you and Tory ever have any like conversations? Because there was moments that before he was incarcerated, you know, I think he was playing it by ear, and you know, I think he was watching public discourse about his case, and then you became one of the people who was probably very. If you had came out of the courtroom and every time like, "Yo, Tory's fucked," it would have really heavily swayed the conversation. And
I wish I did. By the way, I wish I had. I made two videos. I made a video about Quan testifying, and I made a video about Tory not testifying. I made those videos after the defense had made their call. Quan was in there. The defense made their call, and they said, we're not going to wait for the continuance. We're going to go forward without Quan. And I came out and I made a video explaining what the defense's thinking might have been. That video should have said the defense just fucked up. I didn't have the heart to call out a defense team in the middle of a trial while their client is sitting there and they're watching my comment. I didn't want to tell them to their face that they were fucking up. And that was a mistake as a content creator. I didn't want to interject myself. It had already been done. I didn't want the onus put on me to do it. With the benefit of hindsight, it's easy to say, like, yeah, I should have definitely done it. Same thing with Tory testifying. You know, they made the decision to have Tory not testify. I made a video explaining why you might not want him to testify. But, you know, in the bottom of my heart, I knew, I was like, oh, should have had him testify.
Hey, so this is, you know, obviously, Tory's my guy, too. You know, I spoke to Tory maybe a couple of days ago, or no, maybe a week ago. But I will tell you this. You know, I'm one of the few people he spoke to initially when, you know, all this stuff started coming out. And you know, me and him, we used to talk very frequently. And for me, I wanted to know certain things. And I remember him telling me the story. And the story is exactly as how everybody knows it, except the part where the shot gets fired is omitted. It just jumps over like it never happened. And I remember thinking about it even today, and I'm like, Because there's thoughts that Tory may have been protecting maybe Kelsey. Like, oh, Kelsey fired the shot. Yeah, maybe they were fighting the gun, but she fired the shot. But it's not in a rapper's nature. As you know, I don't know if we really are still on the snitch stuff because it's just gonna sell out in Atlanta. But if we are, it's like if you see Tory on stand saying, "Yo, I didn't fire the shot. Yo, Kelsey did it. Yeah, I was grabbing a gun from her. She was trying to grab for the trigger. I'm trying to hit her hand away. Like we started tussling, and then she grabs the gun and tries to aim it at her. I hit the gun, and then she fires the bullet. It ricochets, and I guess that's how she got hit." Is that telling? Like, how do you feel about the narrative associated? Because usually with trials, obviously the OJ trial is a major one, right? Where for interested parties or fans, we want to see or find out the truth. But okay, now we know what happened. The Tory and Meg case, or Tory's case with Meg, I still don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah, when he gets out, he's going to drop the book, right? If I shot her. Just like OJ, right?
No, wait, hold on. But do you feel like you have a good grasp on, like you sat there, do you feel like, okay, this, with about 95% certainty, this is what happened? Because I don't think so. Like, because if the narrative of what the prosecutor is saying, I just can't understand it. Tory's a dude who, listen, he's a little dude who suffers from Napoleon complex. Like he likes to fight. He's a little aggressive, this and third. But Tory will fight a 7-foot giant with his fist.
Are you talking about Meg?
No. I'm just saying a guy. He'll fight anyone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying he's like, oh no, he's just a fighter. He's just not a punk. He's not scared.
He'll pick fights that maybe he should not be involved
in. Yeah, like, and I'm speaking about when men have challenged him. When men feel like they have had, I've heard stories about multiple men. Like there's a whole story that I don't know if people know. Drake low-key rapped about it. There's a story where apparently Drake and like a bunch of his goons at like a Coachella confront Tory, and Tory's not with that many people. And does Tory say, "Pew, I'm running"? No. Tory stands there and goes to battle with Drake's goons. Now Drake's just chilling there like a mafia boss, but like he goes to whatever, and he's just not a punk, right? Obviously they pass it up later on. They're cool. But that's who Tory is. Tory, when the whole thing with Travis Scott happened, from how it was explained to me, he walked in, or he was in that trailer, and Travis Scott was in there with people that outnumbered Tory. So when Tory said that line, or, hey, are we apologizing, or are we squabbling, or whatever it was, he was basically seeing that, hey, this is my best chance to catch a fair one, because if they just jump on me, I'm going to get my ass whipped. He's not a scared guy. So I guess for me, I look at it and I'm like, if I know you're like that with other men, it's so hard for me to believe that him and Meg get into it. A woman. I don't care how big she is. She'll be 8 foot tall. She's a woman.
No, but they were drunk as hell.
I know they were drunk, but still.
They were fighting about the fact that Tory had relations with both of them.
But getting a gun, it seems so asimine.
Oh yeah, I don't know how the gun came in.
And that's why I can't understand this entire thing, right? I guess I said all that to show why I can't understand it. You sat in the trial, you've heard so many different testimonies and so many different, like it painted a very vivid picture for you. Do you feel like you have a good understanding, whether you believe it or not, of what happened?
I feel like I have a good understanding that if that was me with somebody who, if I was in that car that night, I would have kept it in that car that night. And that would have been the end of it.
What does that mean?
That what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And look, when women are abused, they need to speak out the moment the abuse comes, right? You can't silence women and have them not talk. At the same time, when people are culpable, right? If I pick a fight with you, right? If I put my hands on you and it turns into a scuffle or an ordeal, I have an obligation to not go telling one-sided stories. If I get shot or hit really bad in the course of a fight, and I tell the cops and I bring charges, I have an obligation to say that I was fighting too. And in this case, I just wonder whether the whole truth was told by all of the witnesses.